What is up, everybody? It is AJ. On today's video, we're going to be talking about the potential and most likely next UFC light heavyweight championship fight between Jiri Prochazka and Alex Pereira. It seems like the UFC is working on getting this fight set up for UFC 294, which takes place on October 21st in Abu Dhabi. In the main event, we have Islam Makhachev versus Charles Oliveira. Also on the card, the likes of Paulo Costa versus Khamzat Chimaev, and recently added fight between Magomed Ankalaev and Johnny Walker, which I'll touch on that matchup a little bit at the end of the video. I think this is the right addition, and I know it is a heavier weight class fight than the current main event between Oliveira and Makhachev rematching, but this seems like being for a vacant title, it would be more so in a co-main event spot, and I think that would be a great idea. These two are on a collision course to meet, and in my opinion, one of the most violent fights of all time. Two guys that are excellent in the striking department. Obviously, glory champion kickboxer Alex Pereira and the former middleweight champion, then facing off with the most violent guy maybe the light heavyweight division has ever seen in Jiri Prochazka, the former champion of the world too, who also went to war and strangled Glover Teixeira, the coach and mentor of Alex Pereira. So it's a very intriguing fight for me, and it's the one that before UFC 291 this past weekend took place, I was talking about Pereira with the win. It's Prochazka next, and it seems like it's coming to fruition. In this video here, I'm going to talk about my early prediction and reaction to this fight here, as well as kind of ponder upon what would be next for the winner and just the overall state of the light heavyweight division, which currently doesn't have a world champion. So make sure you guys smash that like button, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe. I want to first talk about the last four fights for Alex Pereira. He just fought on Saturday, at least at the time of this recording, which is August 1st. It was the UFC 291 co-main event, and he beat Jan Blachowicz in a fight that some people have said they felt he lost, but my personal scorecard was 29-28 Pereira. I did think he did more, and Jan Blachowicz is a super dangerous guy to fight in your UFC light heavyweight debut. He went out there being Alex Pereira and got controlled badly in the first round. Second round, he was successful with the striking, and the body language of Jan Blachowicz was horrible in the third round. In a competitive round, for sure, during moments, I think what stole it is body language favoring Pereira and some boxing combinations towards the later stage of the round. And then Blachowicz making the mistake of just looking for a takedown and control. Damage trumps all, and he did zero damage from the top position. And that was a great win for Alex Pereira, regardless of if you felt he maybe lost it or, close fight, whatever. What did it prove? He is competent in his grappling defensive capabilities and has solid takedown defense, especially as fights get going longer. And I'll tell you this, if that was a 5-round fight, I think there's a real chance that Alex Pereira would have came on strong in 4 and 5. He has a very good gas tank. Fight before that, he took on Israel Adesanya. He was knocked out. That wasn't long ago. That was April the 8th. And he got dropped badly, but he was looking really good in that fight there. And, up until the perfect counterpunch by Adesanya, it looks like Pereira is going to TKO him. Then fight before that, obviously, it was his win over Adesanya in the 5th round. And previously to that, he took out Sean Strickland in one punch. So the last four for Alex Pereira, he's got win over the opponent Adesanya, lost one, but not a loss that, is all that negative. He got caught by a great punch by a great fighter, and before that he had beaten him, and he's already beaten him in kickboxing. Knocking out Sean Strickland in the first round is super impressive, and beating Jan Blachowicz is still very impressive regardless if it was a super competitive fight, because he's game as fuck towards the top of the light heavyweight division and just drawed with Magomed Ankalaev. Looking at the other side, Jiri Prochazka. So he won the UFC light heavyweight belt June 11th, 2022. So a bit over a year ago. Unfortunately, shoulder injury takes him out of the game for a while. He was supposed to fight Glover in a rematch on the 12th of December, 2022, or excuse me, the 10th of December, 2022. That fight didn't come to fruition. Injury, fight off. You look at the side, though, of Jiri Prochazka getting this massive shoulder injury and maybe having difficulties coming back. I think that's going to be a concern for some people, and I'm going to address that in a few moments. But first, let's keep digging into the record. The fight before he beat Glover for the belt, he had a war with Dominic Reyes, and it was one of the sickest KOs ever, a spinning elbow knockout in a fight where he was hurt on the feet. But damn, he beat up Reyes, beat the hell out of Reyes. Fight before that, Volkan Oezdemir, no time. That was his debut in the UFC, and he beat Volkan up. He bullied him with pressure and big punches and knocked him out. Now, I have been following Jiri Prochazka for many years. Prior to his UFC run, I remember the Ryzen Grand Prix that he fought on and lost to King Mo back in 2015, and that's where I kind of was like, yo, Jiri Prochazka, he's this guy. Like, yeah, he still lost to King Mo there. Eventually, he avenged that loss, and he was doing work outside of the UFC. And I mean, currently, let's see the win streak. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 fights in a row. The man has not lost since 2015. So it's been a very long time since he's taken an L, and a loss that he avenged. You look at the stylistic matchup now between Prochazka and Pereira, and that's where things are really interesting to me, because you look at Alex Pereira showing a little bit of vulnerability to punches against Jan. Jan Blachowicz was hitting him with good punches on the feet. Now, Jan was able to control him and do really good in the first round with that control, winning a dominant first, but not able to get a submission. I think a big reason why Jan Blachowicz didn't win that fight is because he went for a pure grappling-based top game, looking to finish the fight by submission. Where on the contrary side, I think if Jan would have looked to do damage to Alex Pereira from top, we could have been looking at a completely different fight. If he would have beat him up with ground and pound, had Pereira bleeding, I think there's a real chance that he could have got under the neck. Just looking to use jiu-jitsu without using, the striking, to me, was a big mistake on Blachowicz's side. Granted, Blachowicz was never known just for his grappling. Sure has some submission wins, but he's not, your typical wrestler, smash, pass, and strangle people type of fighter. Has wins by sub, but is more notable in the kickboxing department. And you know what? Pereira was touching him up with low kicks well. Blachowicz was pretty defensively sound on the feet, but like I said, I did think it was the right guy winning it. With Pereira, regardless of what we saw on Saturday, he still has massive knockout power. Don't say, oh, he couldn't knock out Jan Blachowicz, he can't knock out Jiri. No, that's not how this game works. There's definitely a possibility that he can hurt Prochazka. His low kicks are incredible, and I think they could be a major key to victory in this fight here with Prochazka. And Prochazka is not known for submissions. Now, he did strangle Glover Teixeira, the coach of Alex Pereira, but that was a fight that usually throughout, he was getting beaten up on the ground. Like, Glover was controlling him on the ground. On the feet is where we saw success by Jiri Prochazka, but Glover also hurt Prochazka bad in that fight and then jumped the guillotine, which was a pretty massive mistake, if I say so myself. Now, when I look at Jiri Prochazka's striking, I see a guy who comes to bang with the samurai spirit. That's his whole game. Incredibly tough and durable, throws heavy punches, stance switches, is comfortable on the feet, and willing to take shots to land shots of his own. He's also a much more impressive physical specimen than Jan Blachowicz, because you look at these guys. Both men stand about 6'4". Their reach is both 80 inches. Now, certain sites will have Pereira with a 79-inch reach standing 6'4", and Prochazka at 6'3" with an 80-inch reach standing, 6'3", like I said, I'm going to repeat it. But you know what I mean? Like, the height is maybe an inch here or there. They're about the same as far as their height and reach. And then I take into consideration this. Jan Blachowicz was a 40-year-old light heavyweight when he fought against, Alex Pereira and had success on the feet this past weekend. Prochazka is a lot younger than that. He's 30 years old, and he has a record of what? 29-3-1. So a shitload of fighting experience and a proven winner obviously unbeaten in the UFC and on a 13-fight win streak. So things get really interesting for me. When I think about the striking, I think Prochazka has the capability to hit Pereira in the face a lot. But what I'm concerned about is the fact that Jiri Prochazka takes a significant amount of damage when he is striking. He was hurt against Reyes. He was hurt against Glover Teixeira. Jiri Prochazka, I think, has more one-punch power than both of those men combined, right? So when we get into the stand-up and we have Jiri throwing a lot of shots, willing to drop the hands and stance switch, is he now all of a sudden going to turn into a chain wrestler? Because that is not his base. And I think his offensive wrestling is worse than Jan Blachowicz's. Definitely. Doesn't have the same takedown game, nor the same grappling game. Where Jiri Prochazka could potentially shine in this fight is if he is able to put pressure on Pereira on the feet, close the leg kick gap, because those kicks that are thrown by Pereira do significant damage and really fuck up the movement. And Prochazka being such a movement-based striker, he moves well, he moves creatively, and he's stance switching, he's exploding inside, throwing looping shots. He could definitely be slowed down and then a sitting duck to big punches. But like I said, where Prochazka I think could win is if he backs Pereira up, hurts him with shots, then mixes in grappling. Like I said, Jan Blachowicz's problem is he was going striking or grappling. You need to strike while you grapple. You need to use both aspects of the game to beat someone like an Alex Pereira. Prochazka will definitely be throwing shots, but I'll tell you this much, guys. Prochazka, being as hittable as he is, dealing with a serious shoulder injury, a full replacement, is ultimately a real red flag here. Note this too. Only 3 wins by submission for Jiri Prochazka. I've been sitting on this fight, and I'm having a hard time with this early prediction. I won't lie to you guys. This is a true coin flip fight, because it's going to come down to, is Prochazka able to close the leg kick gap and avoid big punches, control Pereira a little bit, wear on him, and I think he could still hurt Alex Pereira on the feet. He has the punching power to do so. But I know for an absolute fact that Alex Pereira could knock Jiri Prochazka out with a big punch. And then you take into consideration the fact that Prochazka doesn't bring a significant grappling threat in. So if Pereira's getting comfortable on the feet, not worried about takedowns, maybe even not worried about a shot of a takedown, I can see him backing Prochazka up, ripping him with big shots towards the cage, and actually getting a knockout win. I'm going to early predict that Alex Pereira scores a knockout in the 3rd or 4th round over Jiri Prochazka. Yes, that is a fucking hot take, because I promise you after this weekend, people are doubting Pereira more than ever. He's going to come into this fight as a dog. He's going to be sitting, at, let's say, plus 120, plus 140 range. I'm assuming Prochazka is about a minus 150 favorite to open in this fight. So looking at that, I can actually plug in the implied odds, right? We got a minus 150 there. Let's see what the plus money would be. Let me get these implied odds. I'm doing it right on screen. Yeah, about plus 140 for Alex Pereira is what you should expect if my prediction is correct, that Prochazka is going to open as a minus 150 favorite. Now, ultimately, this would be a high-risk betting fight, so if you are looking to throw down, bet very responsibly, because right now, I am picking Pereira, but at the end of the day, Prochazka is an absolute monster. I think this will be one of the wildest and most violent fights in light heavyweight history. Now, Prochazka having the 6 years of youth on Alex Pereira is going to be something very interesting to me, but I will say I am concerned about his hitability, and I am worried about that shoulder. Supposedly, from the mouth of Dana White, this is one of the most serious shoulder injuries in the history of MMA, or at least the history of the UFC. That's not good. You look at TJ Dillashaw, his shoulder's popping out of socket in the fight. It's over. His shoulder, being Jiri Prochazka, could dislocate, could get hurt in the fight. That's something we have to also take into consideration. So I'm going to pick Alex Pereira to win the fight. He's been consistent with performances and honestly showing improvements regardless of how you guys felt about Saturday with his fight against Jan Blachowicz. I like the chances of Pereira winning, and I'm going to call a knockout win. I think he puts it together on Jiri Prochazka, and I love Prochazka, so I'm having a really hard time picking against him. I'll be honest, I'm sitting there selling myself one way or the other. This is a 50-50, but I'm going the side of Pereira by knockout. I think that's what's going to happen. I'm going to predict that right now, early on, before it's even officially booked. And I want to also look at the state of the light heavyweight division and what could be next for the winner. First, let's just look at the light heavyweight division because there's a marquee fight on 294 between Magomed Ankalaev and Johnny Walker. That's arguably, in a perfect world, the number one contender fight. Problem is, Jamal Hill recently vacated the belt due to a ruptured Achilles, and after an absolute domination of Glover Teixeira, he deserves a title shot immediately upon coming back. So it's going to be timelines of, is Jamal Hill ready to fight the winner of Prochazka Pereira, maybe early into 2024, maybe towards April 2024 on the back end? Or does the winner of Johnny Walker and Magomed Ankalaev get the shot? I'll tell you this much. I love Johnny Walker. He's probably one of my top favorite fighters in the UFC. But, dude, I think Magomed Ankalaev is going to beat him by a unanimous decision. And Ankalaev, coming off a draw to Jan Blachowicz in a fight that he was beating the shit out of him at the end, he's close to a title fight. It's just the excitement maybe isn't there. I don't think that Magomed Ankalaev has the same hype. The UFC is probably hoping Johnny Walker knocks out Magomed Ankalaev. I mean, in a perfect world, can you imagine a Johnny Walker Alex Pereira fight or a Johnny Walker Jiri Prochazka fight? Could still happen if Prochazka does go out there and lose to Alex Pereira, regardless of the outcome of Ankalaev and Walker. I love that as a next fight. And then I look at this, right? If Pereira is able to beat the likes of Jiri Prochazka, I know for a fact the Israel Adesanya trilogy is something the UFC will push. This problem lies, right? Adesanya will probably be interested in challenging for the double champ status. He hasn't forgot about it. I know he lost to Blachowicz some years ago. He still wants to get a second strap. Alex Pereira said that if he's to fight Adesanya again, he will go back down to 185. Now, notably, fighters that have moved up in weight and then gone back down, I just don't think always perform to the same level, especially a 20-pound difference in weight cut. Pereira was like 228 or something like that, 223, 24 hours after the weigh-ins at light heavyweight. Can you imagine? Now he's getting back down to 85. By the time they fight, it could be he's 37. I don't know. I just think I'm more interested in Adesanya getting the shot at the double champ status, but I do understand Alex Pereira's mentality that's like, no, I want to go back down and run it back on the same rule set that we fought upon before. Yeah, you beat me there. I want to do it again. So weird scenario for the UFC. We might have a bit of a logjam at the top if Pereira does decide to drop to 85 and the UFC is into that idea. Though, for history's sake, I think they'd rather Adesanya look to challenge for the belt up a weight class. Time shall tell. Either way, Jiri Prochazka versus Alex Pereira is one of the sickest fights in the history of MMA. I just think about the stylistic matchup. I think about both guys just being complete badass individuals. That's the fight I want. That's a great fight for 294. That's going to up the pay-per-view buys. I think that is needed. Like, Oliveira and Makhachev 2 is an awesome fight. The card looks pretty good right now. But having a co-main event with a title on the line, holy hell, 294 becomes a super card. So double thumbs up for me on that end. For Jamal Hill, for Adesanya, who knows who's next for sure. Magomed Ankalaev, who's right in the mix. Light heavyweight is kind of popping right now. I think this is the best light heavyweight division we've had in a while. There's some interesting contenders, like the likes of Magomed Ankalaev, like the former champion Jamal Hill. I guess everybody's a contender now. Pereira, Prochazka. This is a stacked division. Azmat on the come up. I think he's a dangerous guy. He just beat Dustin Jacoby. Mirzakhanov, he could be somebody that potentially works his way up to the top because he's got a dangerous striking style. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled on light heavyweight because it is a weight class to watch. And Pereira Prochazka, one of the sickest light heavyweight title fights in a very long time. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this early prediction and reaction. I threw up a poll on the channel to, get an idea what you guys were thinking. What would you rather me do a video on? And I dropped a couple of options, and the winner was this video here. It's something that I'll probably do a lot more of. It also lets you guys know that I will be dropping, more opinion type content as opposed to just the picks. Much love to everybody. Let me know what you think of my pick here. Do you think I'm crazy? Am I just blindly on the Alex Pereira train? Or do you see what I'm saying? That he could hurt Jiri Prochazka and potentially get a sick knockout win at light heavyweight and become a two-weight world champion in the UFC? Let me know in the comments. Make sure you guys smash that like button. I appreciate everybody watching. Much love. Subscribe if you're new. Run over to those post notifications if you really enjoy the content. Take them from personalized and put them on all so you don't miss a video. Thank you guys so much. If you got nothing to say in the comments too, drop a W in the chat to boost the algorithm for your boy. Much love, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace, everybody.